Okay, hello everyone. We are back with my beautiful angelic sister in love and light, Michelle. And today we're so excited because we are talking to Ameera Bath. And Ameera, oh gosh, I've known you for, like we were just talking about, 10, 12 years. And we're Mer sisters in the heart. Definitely, we are Mer sisters. And we found another good Mer sister, good friend and sister is Michelle as well. Go figure, right? So, so we're really excited to be talking to another and chatting with another Mer sister here. I would like to read your bio and then we'll dive in.
Sounds good.
Okay. Ameera Atlantis is a multidimensional teacher and healer for the New Atlantis. As an incarnated Atlantean Mer Being, she holds the ancient philosophy, wisdom, and knowledge of the great kingdoms of Atlantis and Lemuria in her DNA and soul remembrance. Ameera is a direct conduit to the Mer World, the sacred feminine, and to the element of water. She brings forth messages from Ocean Mother Yemaya, ArchAngel Metatron, and teaches sacred geometry. Her mission and passion is to inspire and ignite the remembrance of purpose for incarnation in others through their own connection to soul origins and sovereignty. Ameera Atlantis is an ordained minister and steward of the Temple of the New Atlantis, intuitive healer, advanced level past life regressionist, author, and conscious clothing retailer. She lives on the beautiful island of Kauai, so jealous, and host retreats yearly. Her website is www.ameeraatlantis.com, Instagram Ameera_Atlantis11, and YouTube Ameera Beth Mer Healer, Facebook Ameera Atlantis Mer Healer, and yes, okay. Oh, her temple is www.templeofthenewatlantis.org and Wisdom Wear. I love your clothing, by the way, Ameera. www.wisdomwear.org, and we'll have that in the details. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. Really excited to talk to you both today. And I guess just let me know what you want to know.
Right? We
Where
don't
do I
have enough
begin,
time.
right?
Everything.
I know.
Just
Everything.
all of it.
So do you mind starting with sharing a little bit of your background, a little bit, because I know it's a journey,
Yes.
you know, right, that you can't include everything, of course, but a little bit about how you got to where you are now, perhaps.
You know, the abridged version was that I was in 2004 married, living in the suburbs with 3 children, including a young baby, very, very kind of asleep, about 37, 38 years old, and really thinking this was going to be my life. You know, I was just meant to do what my parents did and my sisters did, which was get married, have a family, you know, drive a little SUV minivan, and do the suburban life. That I was raised very, very traditionally, and that was kind of like the expectation of. I mean, that's just what we did, right, in our family. And so, in December of 2004, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona, and watching a show on Oprah. And Oprah was doing a show about women around the world who were in their 30s or 30 years old. And so I very much resonated, and I turned on the show and I started watching her interview these women from all over the world. You know, some of them had lives kind of similar to mine, but most of them did not. Most of them, you know, lived somewhere where many of them experienced like amazing atrocities and very, very difficult lives. Um, but I found as I was looking into the eyes of each one of those women on that show, whether they are similar to me or different than me, I felt a oneness and an emotion that I had never experienced before. And not even with my girlfriends or my sisters, you know, a connection. And I actually was bawling through the entire show, like kind of melting, feeling like I was having a breakdown, like watching them and feeling my heart chakra, which I didn't even know what was back then, my heart chakra open, my, you know, energy field open. And I just like wept and felt this great love for them. that I had never experienced before in my life. And it really kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that was my first experience with, goddess energy or divine sisterhood, divine goddess energy. And I really had no idea what to do with that. I didn't know what was going on. So, for days afterwards, I was just like breaking down and crying and trying to tell my husband, the man I was married to, I saw these women on Oprah and I can't get them out of my mind. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what?
Yeah.
And it just affected me so profoundly. And that was, the 2x4. Sometimes we get
Mm-hmm.
2x4s, looking back now over
Mm-hmm.
the years, I saw where God had kind of tapped me on the shoulder, trying to help me awaken, trying to help me, see this, see that, brings books into my attention, brings people. And, I was just still choosing to stay asleep. So I got the big emotional 2x4. Well, I did happen to, for many years, be working with a psychic healer named Amy. She'd worked with me for many years of the year. And I went to her for things like, why doesn't this boy like me? And
Yeah.
I can't get a job. And, all the 3D stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she had walked me through many of those types of circumstances. And so after this incident, I gave her a call and I said, I need to come see you. And first part of January 2005, I went to her house and I sat down in front of Amy and I began to cry. And I said, I don't know what's happening to me, but I saw this show on Oprah. Now I'm reading this Wayne Dyer book and I'm freaking out. I'm hearing my name called in the middle of the night. I feel like I'm losing my mind. And I started crying. And she looked at me. She says, oh, you've woken up. Congratulations. I've been waiting years for this. And I looked at her and I said, put me back to sleep. I don't like this. And she's like, no, once you awaken, there's no going back. And you're here to be more than a wife and a mother. And, she started pulling cards. She's like, you need to read this book and here's this card. And you are going to be doing this and leading drum circles. And, she started listing off all these things that I would be moving into and practicing and doing over the next couple of years, including moving from Arizona back to Portland for more spiritual training, which we did 6 months later. And I sat there dumbfounded. Like, do you know who you're talking to here? Me? No. But at the same time, it felt so right. Like I walked away, I drove back to my home in Phoenix with this feeling of purpose. Like, oh my God, I have a purpose and I don't know what this is, but I know it's right. And I'm gonna do everything she tells me to do. And I'm gonna go on this journey because I recognize it right now that I cannot say no to this.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the beginning and the catalyst back then to everything that unfolded, including past life regression therapy, learning I'm a Mer Being, learning about my Atlantean history, my Mer soul history, and everything that and more that I am now bringing forward into the world.
Nice. Wow. Thank you, Oprah.
And it's so paradoxical. It's so paradoxical. Like, we hear about these great healers and teachers like maybe Oprah or Wayne Dyer. And sometimes we hear, they have done so many great things, but then we also know this kind of darker, shadowy part of many of these gurus and teachers that are out there in the world, selling spirituality or awakening people. So, and I definitely know the other side to this story. And so the polarity or the duality of like appreciating who they were and what they did for me in those beginning years. And then also now knowing like something beyond that, but not being mad.
Right.
It's like, it's a really interesting time now for us to move through like who is really true and authentic, who is really out there speaking and walking in truth and in love and the divine light, and who the tricksters are, and appreciating both sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question and it went right out of my head. So but we were talking about Oprah. Yes, there was. Oh, I know. So, and I know you would agree with this, my Mer sisters here, that we're still meant to learn from the dark side of things.
Yes.
Right. Especially our dark side and what's coming up for us. Do you feel that you were going through a dark night of the soul?
I never believe I went truly through a dark night of the soul. I think I had very dark moments and maybe even some weeks as you go through the process of the layers and the shattering really of your
Yeah.
reality,
Mhm.
and not knowing, especially when I found out about Jesus and Mary Magdalene,
Yeah.
for instance, and all the lies of the Catholic Church that I'd grown up in. And also, was Jesus a literal figure, or was he a Gnostic figure? He's in all these different spirit, like what's truth and what's not truth. And I did go through some periods off and on where I was kind of angry
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
Right.
a little bit depressed, allowing those programs to collapse and trying to rebuild what felt like authentically was my truth.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, Michelle, do you have anything for Ameera before
I do. I
She do.
would I would love to find out more about how you ended up connecting with the Mer realms.
I was just
How
going to
did
ask that.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like I was just feeling, I mean, I'm literally sitting here feeling like a mermaid right now. It's like I can feel my tail, I can feel my scales, I can feel the water.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, share with us.
Okay. Okay. So about 2 years later or so, we had moved and settled back in the Battleground, Vancouver, Washington area, and I was a daily meditator. That was kind of part of my, spiritual training. As I sat down in my meditation corner pretty much every day and just attempted to meditate best I could. And one day I was sitting there, and I'm still pretty new in my awakening. It really hadn't been that long, and I had read 10,000 books. It felt like,
Right.
and just trying to absorb as much as I could. And I was like sitting there in meditation. My arms began to move and rise like this above around me, independent of my asking them to. Like I would open my eyes and my arms are moving like this, right? And they would make these graceful, swimmy type of motions independently of my will. And I found that if I relaxed my whole body and yielded to it, that movement was within me through every part of my body. And it was fascinating and slightly terrifying, because I really didn't know what was happening. And instead of maybe just enjoying, well, I kind of started to left brain it a little bit, like, oh my God, what is this? And am I being possessed? Right. So, but I found that if I went to the person I was married to, my children, my hands would start to move in circular motions and take away headaches and calm my children. And like there was something energetically coming through me that I wasn't sure about. So I went to a past life regression therapist, a lady named Julia in Portland, who put me in the hypnosis, because I said, I'm having these experiences and I just need to go deeper and find out what it was. And so she puts me in the hypnosis, and I immediately went into a somatic physical experience, going up and down on her couch, claiming I'm a mermaid, swimming down to an underwater city.
Mm.
And I didn't even know mermaids were a real thing. All I knew is I was in the body of this mermaid. I could see an underwater city, and I knew that I was surrounded by other mer beings. And so the session kind of took off from that, and she walked me through downloading this whole presence, remembering, starting the remembrance of Atlantis and my mission as a mer. And when I came out of that, she was just very like, well, now you know. And I was astounded. I was like, how can this be real? And luckily she recorded it, so I didn't have to go back and undo the whole experience in my mind.
Yeah.
But that set me on a course to go deeper and discover deeper what that meant. And so I enrolled in 3 levels of her past life regression training, because that experience impacted me and changed my life so significantly that I knew I needed to share it and offer it to other people. And so one of the cornerstones of my spiritual ministry is taking people into other realms and realities for discovery, remembrance, healing, integrating of anything from their multidimensional self that needs to come through, and assist them.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When you're talking about this, I could feel that. Oh my gosh. When I was a little girl, I used to feel like I could swim to the bottom of the pool and take sips of air at the bottom of the pool. And that's where I kind of connected with it. But I've never done a past life regression. Hello.
Yeah, when you know, and when you actually like, psychics and they can talk to you about all this stuff and talk to you about your essence. But when you experience it for yourself, when you literally it's an embodied experience, it
Yes.
goes from, maybe trying to believe it to accepting it.
Yeah.
And when we go from believing who we are to accepting who we are, embodying who we are, it's a complete game changer. And so, whoops. So that, and I think accepting who we are is also a process,
Yeah.
Totally.
That
we are multidimensional, and this is just a small part of who we really are.
And the accepting it and accepting the power that comes with that. And with great power comes great responsibility. And the responsibility of hosting and holding these energies, not external to us, like you said earlier, but they are truly within us, and allowing those to be an expression of us, also without getting lost in them.
Right.
Or seeking some kind of entitlement or superiority, because these are the energies that we have, that the humility that comes with the responsibility of really understanding our God goddesshood or our divinity or whatever you want to call it. Like that is something that I really try to teach and impress in my students and hold myself, that I'm pretty awesome. I got some awesome things going on, but so do you. Right. Like everybody's got some awesomeness that you can anchor in and, and embody, that's going to ultimately do something to help the world. Yes. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. And that we are so much more than, this is amazing too. Like you said, we are so awesome on the planet when we remember that. And we are so much more than this, and bringing in those fragmented parts or those other multidimensional parts of us and having those in our memory banks just expands who we are here. If I could share my Mer experience, how I discovered my Mer experience real quick. So it was a little bit similar to Mira's, but I wasn't under hypnosis. It was when I was going through my quickening and all that. I've always collected mermaids since I can remember, in dolphins and, that type of thing. So I knew I had some kind of a connection, but I didn't realize that I was a mermaid until in my meditations, during my meditations with Yeshua. And I was I would go so deep in my meditations, I would have to lay down rather than sit up. And this voice came out of me. It was this, I was singing, but it wasn't singing. It was bringing this haunting call out of me that I didn't recognize. It didn't sound like me, definitely. And I'm got goosebumps talking about it. And it was a mermaid call, some kind of a mermaid call. I realized it. It brought me into that awareness of who I am as a mermaid. And then I started having out-of-body experiences as a mermaid, and where I'm underwater. It took me a little while to get used to be able to breathe underwater, because I would panic at first because I'm just there as me. And so I would panic. And I realized, and I'd hear this voice, no, you can breathe, just breathe. And so I'm like, okay. And then I would look down and see my body as a mermaid. I could see myself in physical form, first person as a mermaid. Just really strong body. And I know why you're so, of course you are, because you work out really hard, Ameera. She's the queen of yoga and all that. And so when I see this body of myself, it reminds me of you, this strong, and I feel the strength of that body. And I'm wow. So, because I'm looking at it as myself too. And then another experience, I look down, there's a dolphin in front of me, and going like that to look down. I look down and I'm nursing a mer baby.
Oh,
yeah. I never get tired of that story.
Oh yeah, I know. It was just so amazing. I've got goosebumps again. And and then another experience where I'm with my mermate, and I remember my mer family too, swimming down to the city, and I'm with my merman mate, and we are just floating in the ocean or in the water with, I'm on top of him and he's holding me. And it was just, we're just floating, just so peaceful. And it was just the most peaceful and loving feeling of being together that way, where he's just holding on to me and I'm floating with him. It was amazing.
Wow.
But I love those experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, what's funny is I'm listening to you ladies. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, ever since I was a young girl, my bathrooms have always been mermaids. To this day, now the mermaids have seeped out into the kitchen,
Mhm.
dining room, kind of the big garden room, the patio.
Right.
And it's interesting because when it's a part of us, it just becomes a part of our environment too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I love your logo here, Ameera, with the mermaid holding the trident's
Right.
work.
Definitely.
I love, and it keeps like kind of like pulsing in my memory here. It's
Ah,
really cool because I've seen it, but not quite like that. And it's doing something. It's doing something. It's sparking something. I'm
Truly,
so
yes.
nice.
excited we're talking about this
I know.
today. This is so cool. Oh my God, Ameera. And oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sharon. I almost called you Susan again.
Okay. That's my new name, Susan Sharon. So Michelle calls me Susan. We had to have known each other in another life as Susan, where I was Susan. So, no, I just wanted to ask Ameera if do you have memories of, if you could share your memories of Atlantis and what the Mer people, their role in Atlantis.
Okay, great question. I love this question. So there were 5 incarnations rising and falling of Atlantis, and the Mer were involved somewhat during every incarnation. So the one that I'm mainly here to speak about and teach about, and that I remember the most clearly is the last fall of Atlantis,
Yeah.
13,000 years ago. And so during that time, 13,000 years ago, when it was decided that we would go through another Atlantean experiment of, forming the landmass and the beings coming down from all over to take part in it, the agreement between the Atlanteans and the Mer were that they were kind of like sister cities or sisters. So Merlantis, what I call Merlantis, it was of course called something else in our language.
Mhm.
Merlantis was the city under the sea. Atlantis was above the ground. So Merlantis held the below, the Atlantis masculine held the above. The Merlantis was the feminine, and the we loved the humans. Mer people, we just were fascinated by the human race. We were fascinated by the whole experiment that was trying to happen with these Atlanteans coming in and being third dimensional beings with fifth dimensional consciousness,
Mhm.
learning through their 5 senses for the very first time. And the experiment was, can we hold that fifth dimensional above consciousness in a third dimensional body with all the human, all the human sensations and foibles and things that go on. So the job or the agreement between the Atlanteans and the Mer beings were that many of us were given the assignment as a Mer to be able to shapeshift and come up out of the water and shapeshift with some legs and go assist the Atlanteans in many, many things. I remember specifically going into the healing temples, the Temple of Poseidon. And I remember the Temple of Poseidon being like a darkened cavern with these walkways and these waterways and these beautiful little inlets that were lit by colored lights that when I saw them in my regression, I didn't know what they were at the time. These beautiful colored crystals that seemed to glow within, and the healers would be in there with their people on the tables working with the 13 chakras and the energies. And there were all these little inlets and walkways, and you could hear the water coming through. And it was just very, even though it was dark, I remember, do you remember a lot of foliage, even though it was dark down there?
Mhm.
And I don't know how the flowers and the foliage were managing, other than maybe the light source, which I later identified as the Andara crystals.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
okay.
looking at Andaras. I realized that many years later after I found the Andaras, but somehow there was all this beautiful foliage, super peaceful. And I remember coming up and helping through this movement that I was doing then and now, helping the Atlanteans learn to self-heal, to
Right.
self-heal each other, and to heal themselves and to heal each other. And that's where the Atlanteans would come in to refresh, rebuild their auras, all the things to keep their vibrations high and keep their consciousness high. So not only did the Mer help with that, but we also taught them about cycles and seasons. We taught them about sun rituals, sunrise, sunset, moon cycles, all the cycles of the earth, and taught them how to live symbiotically
Mhm.
with the cycles of the earth and of the seasons, because when we are in symbiosis with the earth cooperates with us, right?
Right. Right.
We taught them about sacred geometry, growing their gardens in sacred geometry, to enhance their food supply. So we gave them all this knowledge and information. And so, because remember, they came down going, "We're so excited, but what do we do? What do we
Yeah.
do?"
How do we handle this? Yeah.
Yeah. So we came down to help them unify. I remember as a Mer having a crystal around my neck, my specific crystal that I think all of us were born with, that was like a homing device,
Mm-hmm.
because Merlantis was cloaked. You couldn't find it unless you had one of these crystals that would lead you back through whatever veil or portal or vortex we traveled to be able to go back to Merlantis. Atlantis was not so cloaked. It was very like out there in the world. So we would come up as Mer and we would shapeshift and spend, I remember being able to hold that form for about 12 hours, kind of like a sunrise to sunset type of a thing. Then having, to return to the sea and go let my body do its transformation back to Mer and go back to that life. And I remember how much I loved the Atlanteans. I remember how much I loved the humans. I loved their legs, and I loved having legs. I loved being able to walk, and my feet when I would come up were very long and pointy. They weren't very cute and pretty. So I was not, because they weren't like you see Ariel with it wasn't
You're
quite
right.
like that. We couldn't
Right.
quite get that that exact representation or whatever. And I think that was by design. So we'd be like, all right, we gotta go back.
We're still Mer. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still Mer. But I remember being so fascinated by their legs, and how they carried themselves and how they stood, and walked so regally upright. And we wanted to do that with them. And so that was a big part of the agreement, was teaching them about nature and teaching them how to stay in symbiosis with the earth so that the earth would support and sustain them.
Wow. That puts so many things together in my mind of experiences I've had and memories that I didn't, because when you get snippets of memories of these long lost
Yes.
communities and your role there, that's amazing.
Ameera, I have
Wow.
a quick question for you. And by the way, I'm just like Sharon is saying, as you're talking about this, I'm like, oh, that's
Mhm.
what that was. Oh,
Right?
that's what
Right.
that was. Oh. And the lights, matter of fact, it was so funny because I picked up my Andara that I have here because it was like, show me,
Yeah,
show
nice.
me. Where are the Mer people originally from? Do we know?
Well, most of us came from Mintaka, which
Okay.
is the westernmost star in Orion's belt. It's known as the blue planet, the blue water planet. Only it wasn't really water; it was more like liquid plasma light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but water is the closest thing. So when water was first element on Earth, so when Prime Creator decided to create, build Earth was going to be formed. Water was the first element to fall to Earth. It came as liquid plasma light. It wasn't like water like we know today. And we know water completely surrounded the planet at one time. And the Mer fell with it. So most of the Mer who came from Mintaka were original Mer who came with original liquid plasma light that fell to Earth at the onset of the creation of the planet.
Mm.
Wow.
And so we were very different. We are very ancient. Mer are very, very ancient. And I think the Mer, Sharon, where do you feel like you originated from?
That resonates with me. I've always known I'm from a water planet, obviously, a blue
Mhm.
water planet,
Yes.
but I didn't know where.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was probably Mintaka.
Okay.
And I think there were one or two other smaller water colonies that also, but Mintaka was the kind of the main hub, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we came to bring, and remember that all water that is here on the earth today is original water. All water here is first water. So anytime you take a drink and you pee or you sweat and that gets absorbed up into the clouds and recycled back to Earth.
Wow.
Okay, all water is original water. That's how we know water is so ancient and holds memory of everything from all time.
That's why the whales and dolphins always come through with me in channels to drink water, drink water. There's so much in water that we don't even understand.
Yes. And the Mer, because we're water,
Right.
we hold that essence, that original essence within us. And the other thing that the Mer, we Mer are doing or have done is the Mer, we are the essence of the divine feminine. We hold the divine feminine template, the new divine feminine, and we are here in mass numbers, like the return of the goddess is really the return of the fluidity, feminine, receptive that is found in the cells and DNA of the Mer. So that's why you see mermaid iconography everywhere. Mermaids, every little girl wants to be a mermaid. We're remembering it's because the divine feminine has risen up through the return of the Mer beings in human form.
Nice. I just, a memory just came to me, or what I remembered, that one of my home planets, I feel, is named Opus. My mother came through with that after she passed. Have you heard of a planet named Opus?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah.
What's there?
Well, it's a water world, from what I understand. Yeah. So I don't know. That's
and even the fact that you two ladies are so connected to the Marys, the derivative, the root of Mary is Mar, which is sea.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it all begins to make sense, and another beautiful thing that I really want to mention, which falls in alignment with our responsibility and our humility is you both know, you recognize you are one of many aspects of Mary Magdalene or the Marys. I am one of many aspects of Yemaya. There are many, many aspects, women here, maybe some men too, who hold Yemaya's essence and messages. I am part of her soul stream here on a mission with a prime directive mission. Somebody else's might be different than mine, but I know mine, and I recognize that I am not the only one. So sometimes you'll hear people out there in the world talking about, like, I am the incarnation of so-and-so, I am the only, well, first of all, if you are the full embodied incarnation of some great being, you better be throwing down some big ass miracles.
Exactly.
You better be walking on water, and you better be throwing down like some, big, and so it's the human ego. When you're working with the divine essence of something, or not the divine essence, maybe the reversal. If you are told you are the only one, you get to do this, there's nobody else, and you try and claim that, because first of all that energy of an archangel, a god, a goddess, whatever, our bodies are not physiologically equipped to hold that amount of light. Those beings, God's pretty smart. God's like, well, not one or two humans can hold it all. So we're going to split this up between many, many beings who will carry the messages forward in many physical vehicles.
Right.
One, to reach 8 billion people, right? One person can do that. And secondly, because like literally we would blow up. We would not be able to hold yet, yet I'm going to say that massive amount of light. But as we go through this ascension process, as we heal other aspects, we meditate, we go to shamanic journeys, we past life regress, we pray, we do all these things that are healing us multidimensionally and healing the other versions of ourselves and other realities. The more we course correct those and send them back to the light, we actually hold more light.
Right.
So that's part of how this ascension is happening and how we are learning to embody an energy. And you pretty soon we go from like acting in the archetype. It's one thing to act in the it's another thing to become the archetype.
Embody it. Yeah.
So the embodiment of the true archetype, the true divine presence, is trying to happen, in many of us who are offering ourselves up in service, not in sacrifice, right? We're not doing the sacrifice thing anymore.
Not anymore.
It is in full, long, open-hearted service to humanity.
Wow.
I love that. That's beautiful. One thing I wanted to also add is, from my perspective, you were talking about the difference between information that you're getting that you are the incarnation rather than you are part of a soul stream. And there are many others that have come here. I think that as people start becoming aware of themselves, and I know this, I went through that too, because don't tell me I'm Mary Magdalene. That's not something that I can, my ego luckily didn't go out and say, oh, I'm Mary Magdalene, but still it's a struggle within you. It's a struggle. So that as you heal that part of you and realize that we're all connected, and there's many, many, many of us, the ego and the dark, how do I say it? But the shadows within us can be transmuted.
Right.
And that's when we realize that, okay, we are part of this much, 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 much larger project, yeah.
We always want to believe it in everybody else, but we don't want to believe it in ourselves.
Right.
It's so true. And you know what just came into my mind too, is as we actually embody that presence and say yes to, I am a Mary Magdalene, I am a mermaid, I am these things, we also begin to be able to transcend the stories and all the stuff that are attached historically, right? And that are really embedded in the human mind of what happened. And we begin to come back to that truth. We begin to bring the truth of the stories, like the walk of Mary Magdalene, who the mermaids are here, who the unicorns are, who even the dragons are, what the dolphin whales are really doing. We begin to bring the truth. We transcend all of the nonsense that's been put on that. And I really feel that the Mary Magdalene energy is the energy as we're embodying it. And even sitting here, I'm seeing Christ like right here. He is like, yes, my girls are together. It's bringing that Christ consciousness through easier too.
We keep getting the same things at the same time. We don't even need to talk anymore, right, Ameera? We don't.
We'll just go like this
telepathically, because
2 hours.
I know. Right, because I got Jesus here, Yeshua here, and he was telling me just right before you said that, he was telling me, do you remember in your near-death experience, I've shared this, that I took you to that water world. I took you to a water world. He's like, remember that? Like, of course I remember that, but now it's connected now.
And because the world, the earth was originally water, we are going to return to being a water planet. I feel that very, very strongly that the water is coming.
Yes.
And that's not to alarm or put any fear, but land masses always were meant to rise and fall.
Yep.
And as land masses fall, as decreed by the cycle of creative destruction, create, destroy, recreate, because that is the cycle of God and life. Everything has a cycle. The seasons all have cycling of creation, destruction, and recreation. Okay, as we go through the recreation of this planet and finish this cycle, this 13,000 year cycle, we will see, I believe we will literally see the rise of the new Earth Atlantis, the literal
Yes.
rise of those land masses, those Atlantean land masses.
Mhm.
I am a teacher of the new Atlantis rising. I'm here to get everybody ready for that
Yeah.
because it's coming, and to remind us all that we are eternal beings.
Yes.
We are soul. We are eternal beings. There is no death. When Atlantis fell 13,000 years ago, because the consciousness ended up falling so deeply, the fifth dimensional beings lost their connection and remembrance that they were divine eternal beings in a great experiment, and that all was well. So they fought, they lamented, they cried out in pain and in sorrow and agony. And when Atlantis sank for the last time, it took with us a consciousness of despair, because they forgot they were eternal beings. And that consciousness of despair is, and despair, when you get to the root of the human condition, it's abandonment, and as despair and abandonment are our core wounds as humanity.
Yeah.
And that core wound came in at the end of the fall of Atlantis. And that disparity had a reverberation because all the beings were from everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, they're galactic. That had a reverberation to every star system, every planet, every whatever, and affected those communities. This is why the return of Atlantis and the rewriting and the course correcting of the spiral of Atlantis is a galactic thing. It's not an Earth thing. It's not even like our Milky Way thing. It is a galactic, eternal, divine, eternal thing where everybody's watching.
Yeah.
Every race is participating and sending people because they recognize that it because of the oneness that we all share, this course correction needs to come through the totality of all of God's creations with non-judgment, without guilt and shame, and without pride, to rescue and repair the damage essentially that was done to the soul of humanity, who are still hanging on to guilt and shame, abandonment and despair.
Right.
Okay, so as we go through this process and we see again land masses rise and fall, and we're watching a good part of humanity make choices that are ultimately going to thwart their attempts at ascending or their attempts of unifying with Prime Creator, we observe this without judgment because that is their soul path and soul choice. Perhaps that is their agreement to the nefarious forces to go into a sacrifice program to help save maybe the 20% of us that will be able to be around. Okay, and I know that's a weird thing to say, but I really feel like it's going to be a small amount of the population that comes to the other side. So, and it doesn't mean anybody is good or bad or better or worse. It's soul path, it's soul agreements, it's soul contracts, plain and simple. Some of us have soul contracts to see this earth thing through no matter what happens. I kind of feel like I'm a cockroach, no matter what the frick happens on this planet, I still get to be here, right? I get to ride out it all. And part of me is like, oh, dang.
I know, right?
But I
What was
really
I
feel
thinking?
like that's what I've agreed to. And then others have agreed to different timelines and different outcomes. And they'll go back into the soul recycling and they'll come back to this planet or another and continue their learning or advancement until their soul feels it is clear for ascension. Everybody plays, everybody wins. There is no time. There is no, no reality where anything is better or worse. It's just a great big freaking game out here we're doing. And at the same time, it's kind of serious, where this is a potent point in the history of the earth to recreate something that opens the door for all beings to ascend and be free and go back to the law of one.
Yes.
Nice. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
That's so profound. Yeah.
Absolutely. So much truth there. You know,
Mhm.
it's interesting. I'm being asked to share something with you ladies.
Mhm.
Gosh, it's probably been 15 years ago. I started writing a book about the end of the last phase of Atlantis. And one of the things that I remember is that as everything just started breaking apart, right? The waters were coming up, things were breaking
Yeah.
apart. And the ships that were in the big harbors, people were running for the ships. Well, there were also star family beings that were here that were trying to help us. But one of the things that I remember, and I forgot up until this very moment, was part of what I remember of that. And I had written in this book I was writing that the Mer people came and that they were trying to help the humans.
Yes.
And I remember them seeing them holding the humans as they were collapsing into the water and
Yes.
even on the land,
Yes.
and seeing mermaids actually coming out of the ships, out of the
Yeah.
starships, like they were bringing people to help. And even the
Yeah.
dolphins were helping too. And it was really powerful. And as as you're talking, I'm like having these memories and these memories. And it was such a traumatic time, and it scared so many people. And I never thought about that as being something that was taken down into the water. And water is so
Yes.
conductive of energy and thought and consciousness.
Yes. Yes. And it recorded all of it. It
All of it.
recorded all of it. So the Mer, we were extremely traumatized by this happening.
Oh,
And by holding the humans as they were trying to pass, we were trying to soul retrieve them before they didn't cross over. Because and you all know, if a soul dies with trauma, oftentimes there's not a crossing over.
Right.
And so there are many Atlanteans who were left hanging in the ethers because of that trauma. And we were trying to cross as many of them over as we could to reduce the trauma and the earthbound spirits.
Mhm.
yeah.
But there were
Yeah.
a lot of Atlantean earthbound spirits, a lot of traumatized beings. And then, of course, because that's an aspect of you and me, the abandonment, the despair, because it's all connected, right?
Right.
It all starts to make sense.
Right. And that's a lot of my work
Absolutely.
too, is
Yes.
helping Atlantean lifetimes be brought into this whole,
Yes.
because there's a lot of fragmented Atlantean
Yeah,
lifetimes.
you did a soul retrieval on me from Atlantean lifetime.
Oh, did I? Okay, I don't
Yeah.
remember. Okay, yeah, there's so many. But what you were saying, Ameera, reminded me, Michelle, too, of an experience I had when I was just starting to wake up, and I was I'm an out of body traveler still, but during one of my earlier out of body experiences, I'm sitting in front of my counsel, who I didn't know then, but know now is my counsel. There's a Pleiadian, a couple of Pleiadians, Syrian, a couple of
Arcturians.
and extraterrestrials there. And we're talking, and they bring up that I am here. They're pretty much telling me kind of what my mission is. And again, it was before I woke up. I was just starting to wake up, and they told me that I'm here to rectify what happened in Atlantis.
Yes.
I said, well, what happened in Atlantis? Because I was just waking up, and they just, I'm like, what happened in Atlantis? They look at each other, and they look at me, and they said, let's just say it wasn't good. Yeah, so that makes so much, I mean, of course it makes sense, but now I understand that it just, puts more pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
From my
It
experience.
takes an intangible. I have a really good way of taking the intangible or the esoteric right brain stuff and putting words to it, and helping the left brain go, oh, okay, I get this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. Every time I talk to you, every time I hear you speak, you connect things with me.
Oh, good.
Totally. Totally. Because it's like, I've got so much going on.
Yeah.
It's like I've got the Arcturian thing, and I got the mermaid thing, and the unicorn thing, and the me thing, and the 3D thing, and the master healer, and like we all do. And it's like, sometimes I just feel like it's just a big tree where all the branches are there.
Right.
but it's connecting it back up to that trunk.
Right.
And every time I talk to you, it's like, oh, okay. It's like my tree's trunk is getting put back together.
Yeah.
And it feels so good. Thank you. Because it's just, oh, this is so important right now. It's so important.
It's very important.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you. And even as we're sitting here, I'm getting this guidance. It's like, do you think it's time to start teaching about the mermaids and the unicorns? And it's like, I'm not ready. Yeah, you are. Woo! It was like, but I don't know as much as Ameera. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you know, and you will find that once you trust yourself and just
Ooh.
start talking about just the
Just
that
starts coming.
channel just opens up and it
Like
flows.
everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
it just
everything
starts
else,
coming.
start talking about ETs. It's like, what did I just say?
Yeah, exactly. Thank God this is being recorded. I don't know if I can repeat that again.
I know, right? Yeah. 5 minutes later, you don't remember it at all.
Yes.
We could talk about this all day long for sure. But I was wondering, Ameera, if you would tell us about your Temple of New Atlantis.
Okay. Okay. So the Temple of the New Atlantis came in as an inspired download last September. I was out running on my very healthy human legs in this lifetime. I've been running for 35 years, and I really know I love running because of my love for, you know, my infatuation with the human form as a mer, right? So in this lifetime, I came in with a very strong body, very strong legs, just like in the water, I had such a strong tail, you know?
Mhm.
So I got to have that back in this lifetime. So I was thinking about, it was right at the onset of all the announcements about vaccination, mandatory vaccinations coming through private and public sectors, government sectors. I was seeing all these people on my social media and some I knew in purpose on in person
Mhm.
who were so upset because they were going to lose their job unless they took that unwanted coercion of a medical procedure, and they didn't know how to get out of it. And I remember, you know, they didn't have any kind of an exemption that would allow them to not do this. So I was running and I was very upset. I was and I hear this voice and I was thinking, well, how can people get out of this? Well, I mean, a church. They can go to a church, a religious letter. Maybe they can find a church. And I hear this voice in my head go, Ameera, start a church. I was like, what? I'm like, that's how you can help.
Yeah.
Start a church. I was like, can I really do that? Start a church? So I did this little post on Facebook and I showed a picture of myself and I put my thoughts out there. I'm like, I should just start a church for you all. And I had all these people go, oh my God, do it. You know,
Please,
can you do
please.
it?
Yeah.
And I had my friend who's a very good astrologer. My astrologer messaged me, private messaged me, and she says, don't get a state-run church, which has code 508C1 or 5081C, 501CA.
501c. Yeah.
Don't get a
yeah.
state-run church. She says, get a private membership association and get a 508C1A, which is a free church. And I was like, oh, what? And I started investigating this. So the first thing I did is I got my private membership association, which allows me, allows someone who wants to start a company or a business to do it in the private sector and not under a corporation. It's out of government reach is what that means. It's out of government overreach. What we do is private, just like you're in your living room with your guests in your living room.
Mhm.
So I set that up. It took about 3 weeks start to finish to get my articles of association and to get my bylaws. I also am in the midst of doing a 508 church, which is a free church, non-state run. Okay, so and it took within 3 weeks, I had my PMA, my membership agreement, which when you have a PMA, it's an agreement between you and the member, and they pay a nominal fee typically to belong to that membership. And it's like, this is our private business. You are agreeing to be a member here as long as you feel like you want to be a member, and this is our business. It doesn't belong to the rest of the world. It doesn't belong to the government. Within that, I wrote a really, really beautiful religious exemption letter. And I spoke about our body temple as sovereign and our DNA as sovereign and God-given, and Michelle joined and brought a couple people with her. And I started emailing these letters, offering these letters to my members, and they came in droves.
Yeah.
I think I had 50 people. I got a website up right away, did a little video, and I think I had 50 people in 3 weeks.
Wow.
The majority of them wanted a letter to save their jobs.
Mhm.
Some people joined because they just wanted to belong to something different, a different type of spiritual organization. And people, I had somebody donate. Some people just donated money to me because we love what you're doing. Thank you. Go help the people. And so I was able to pay my PMA, all my website fees off, just through people coming and saying yes to this. And the reason I'm sharing this part is because when we are divinely guided to do something, when God decrees, go forth and do this, my child, bring it, and we say yes.
Yeah.
If it's a money thing, the money comes, right?
It comes.
Okay,
Yes.
the money came, and I was able to fully fund and support this entire Temple of the New Atlantis, the entire project, get everybody who needed for their families, for themselves, families joining, get them the religious exemption letters. And I don't even know how many jobs I've been able to save.
Oh, nice.
Because of this participation with spirit and this drawing of the line in the sand of no,
Mhm.
we will not be participating in your experiment.
Yeah.
We will not be your guinea pigs. We are decreed by God. My body belongs to God. My soul belongs to God. And I wrote a really, really amazing
Yep.
letter.
Yep.
That I'm very proud and happy to make this offering to the world. The Temple of the New Atlantis will not only be for medical exemptions. I'm holding online gatherings, temple gatherings, sharing all kinds of information about New Earth. I'm going to start sharing about PMAs. I'm going to start sharing about the American State National Program, and bringing people together in general, because if we are to form the New Earth or the New Earth Atlantis, communities have to come in.
Yes.
The temple is based on the law of one and the 7 sacred laws of Atlantis. There is no requirement except an open heart, an open mind, and a belief that at the core of it all, we truly are one, and we are meant to come together in droves as community, as tribe, and help each other figure out this experience that we're having together.
Yes.
Wow. I love that so much.
It feels so good and so
Mhm.
safe.
Mhm.
I actually just realized, there's a little bit of me that's not been feeling safe through this whole thing.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, things are crumbling. And when you talk, Ameera, it's like, I feel really, the word that it comes is safe.
If I can offer that to anybody, safety, I mean, what a gift. That's a really precious reflection. Thank you. Because although we know we're eternal beings and ultimately we're safe, the human part of us goes, am I really? We're going to be here tomorrow?
Mhm.
What am I going to wake up to? The entire humanity as a whole, we're all traumatized.
Yeah.
We're traumatized from the minute we're born.
Yes.
And we come out of the womb, and the way we come out of the womb. And, we are considered a dead entity as soon as our birth certificate is put into motion. We are a vessel. We are the vessel coming tugged by the umbilical cord, by the the doctor who tugs us out and then writes a bill of lading, which becomes our birth certificate. And we are sent out to sea. We're considered lost at sea. So there's all this language, and just coming into that paradigm, even though we're unconscious of what's happening to us, coming into that itself is a trauma that tries to separate us from our divinity and from our soul and sell us out as a corporation. So I'm here to help bring that information and really bring people home. We're going to be found at sea, and we are, coming back to the land and being on the land, and that simultaneously being found and knowing that water is still a significant, important, potent element and part of us, and integrating all the elements together, as we're supposed to, as a fully integrated being.
Yes. That's
Wow.
wow. So as you're talking, the thought came to me, and I can't imagine you disagreeing with it, but with being traumatized since we're a child, with all how we are set up to be slaves from the very beginning,
Yes.
from our birth, that has got to affect us on an energetic and subconscious way
Yeah.
that we don't realize as we move through our day, and it, I would imagine it feeds into those already, those past life memories already,
Yes.
of not feeling worthy, of feeling shame, of feeling guilt, and feeling entrapped, and those types of things. So it, even though we don't know what's going on in our life, or the circumstances for a lot of us, if we're very sensitive,
Mhm.
can can dictate that, and so we're holding all of that energy
Yes.
within us, even though we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and the weirdest thing of all is we agree to this. We
Yeah.
agree to come here to
I
this.
know, that's why I keep saying, what was I thinking?
Well, it's
We're up there going, yeah, this looks like a good idea.
That's what I have this memory of talking to my galactic parents, right, as this galactic being, and saying, well, Earth is calling. I want to go to Earth. They're like, are you sure? Are you sure? Well, I want to help. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a eternal being. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And
It's
I'm
great.
like,
I'll
wait a
remember
minute.
I'll remember that I'm, a fifth dimensional being and above in this having a human experience. I'm going to remember. No,
Oh
you won't.
yeah. After
Yeah, I will. And if I
37,000
don't,
lives.
it'll be fine. And then we get down and we're like,
I know. It's like, I've been here for way, 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 way too long.
yeah.
it's like we forgot that we forget. And when we come in, we
Yeah.
pop in, we don't have those memories. It's so funny. I always say, and I hold this to this day, that when the opportunity came up to go back, I could have sworn they said there was going to be a party. And I'm going to stay here until that damn party gets going.
Yep.
It's coming.
Because-
It's coming. It's not that far off. I just keep having, like I shared earlier, I just keep having these visions and these memories, and I know they're memories of future and past, of the new world, the new earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm.
it brings up so much emotion in me, because it's so balanced and in harmony with the planet, with each other.
We are the reconstruction crew.
Mhm,
Yep.
mhm.
We are the boots to the ground,
Ooh, goosebumps.
doing the
Yes.
work,
Mhm.
building the new Earth Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Yep.
are.
Lead the way.
And those
Lead
of you
the way.
watching are too.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, all of you.
Yeah, I feel a lot like this is really speaking to people's kind, just like deep, deep memories right now.
Yeah.
That this show is really going to be shaking some people up. I feel like there's some people that are like, oh yeah, oh
Mhm.
yeah, oh yeah, because I know, the mystical realms, the mermaids, the unicorns, the dragons, the fae, the elvens, they've been relegated to that fairy tale.
Yeah.
And they're real, and they've been real, and they're coming back, because I know that I've reconnected with the unicorn realm, and they said it took a certain level of purity of mind for them to be able to start coming back in. And is that the same with the mermaids, do you think that humans needed to get to kind of a level before they could really come back in and start doing their...
Yes. And those of us who hold, soul stream, of a mythical creature or an ET or whatever, at some point, we personally, and maybe humanity as a whole, we will get to a point where you and I, if we want to reveal our mer form, or that overlay of our mer form, that we're going to be able to walk around and reveal that and be seen that way, and it will be okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I just had a flasharoo.
I've never said that before, by the way.
Oh,
I did a lot
wow.
of interviews. I've never said that before.
So this is breaking news.
This is
Yeah.
breaking news.
Yeah,
Put
it's
that on the
coming.
header.
And but
Breaking
what that
news.
means, but what that also means is,
Ooh.
the reptilians and some of the nefarious beings
Mhm.
who hold those overlays, but they're cloaked.
Mhm.
That's got to break down first, I feel.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to reveal themselves through the thinness of the veil, reveal their soul, reveal their heart or lack thereof.
Mhm. Right.
Okay. And that's going to have to be revealed first and collapse and be more eliminated. And then we are going to be able to come forward and people won't fear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is already collapsing too.
Yeah.
There have been some things on mainstream TV where you see weird eye stuff going
Yeah.
on. It's like,
It's
yikes.
still so, but it's still so kind of like, out there, like the main
Yeah.
population of humanity doesn't look for, it's not even registering.
Right.
And so, we'll know that the consciousness of the earth, the frequency of the earth is high enough when these beings are unable to hold their form in public.
Yes.
And the general public gets to see it and decide if they're going to fall over dead in the streets or if they're going to like go on, because
Mhm.
now they're knowing the truth.
Yeah.
There'll
Yeah,
be choice points all along the way.
Right. And I see even more than Mer, extraterrestrials, different
Yes.
looking
Yes.
extraterrestrials will be walking the streets with us.
Yep.
And it
Just like in Atlantis.
just like in Atlantis, and it will not be a big deal. I mean, we're
Yeah.
already starting to bring hybrids, and we see people that look like, whoa, that person's an
Yes.
extraterrestrial. We're already seeing people like that, and we just kind of say,
Yep.
that person's got to be extraterrestrial, and then we go on.
Well, and when you see souls, like I know both of you see souls, and many people listening, you see a soul. You can see that overlay or that imprint or that mannerism or
Right.
the body language
Mhm.
of some other being.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. And you know what? I am being moved to share this really quick. I think this is, I feel like somebody needs to hear this, and I need to hear this. In the Mer world, they're through different things. Some of us were deeply wounded, and especially with the fall of Atlantis and everything. And so I'm going to share this. And a lot of people know this already, that I have had a severe hip and back injury, and I'm actually in a wheelchair right now. I can walk a little bit, but I'm not. But as we're talking about this, you guys, and I don't think this is just about me, I feel like this is a wounding out there, that we have been very wounded, and many of us that have this kind of an injury or illness in our body is stemming from that. And it's really weird because as I'm sitting here, and I said this way at the beginning of our show, I can feel my tail and
Yes.
my fins, and I can feel that something happened, and which is I'm carrying whatever that wounding is
Yes.
in my body, and I'm feeling almost like maybe being cut.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
a spear in the base of your spine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you were caught by a boat or by a fisher
Yep.
boat, and something caught you, and drug you up.
Yep.
Yeah, and so now that knowing this, the good things is we can go in and look at and correct and heal.
And that's the beautiful thing. And that's exactly why I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Because I just really feel like that the show is really going to bring some stuff up for people. And I want everybody to know that all three of us are here to help you.
Yeah.
And to support you. Because this is really important. This bringing this feminine with the mer people back onto the surface is huge for the future of humanity and all of us, our mermanity.
Right. Mermanity. I love that.
There's so many people that are remembering their mer selves too. I come across people all the time.
Me too.
Even not only women, but men too.
Yes.
Yep. Really, we need more of the men to be like, I know I'm mer. I would love that, because I'm still looking for Mr. Atlantis. I'm still looking for Mr. Merman, where are you? Show yourself.
Mr. Merman.
Poseidon in flesh.
Yes, Poseidon in the flesh.
Yeah. So with what we were just talking about, I just want to touch on that again real quick with the trauma in our spine and the legs, and that what you were talking about, Michelle. So I feel having that awareness can help completely or help tremendously with letting go.
Yes.
Letting go of it, letting go of that trauma. And I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps as we're talking about it. So like Ameera was saying, healing that by letting it go, that we don't have to hold on to it anymore. There's so much
Yeah.
emotional baggage with that, emotional trauma.
And there were some traumas that were purposely done during some of that, from some of the dark side that was trying to take over Atlantis too,
Sure.
Yeah.
if I'm not wrong, and to the mer people, because we did love them so much. We did hold them in such high regard. We had so much love, and they didn't want that. You know, they didn't want the mer people.
There is and has been a hunting of the mer.
Yeah.
And
saw
this
that.
is why
Yeah.
we remain so cloaked and so hidden,
Mhm.
because when we have showed ourselves in the past, something like you experienced has happened. So there is a hunting of our kind. And so when it is safe for us to fully come forward in our true form, then we will. Until then, we kind of work underwater or under,
Yeah.
in the background. Yeah.
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 And if anybody is being called to this, if they're really feeling like their mer person is showing up, please get a hold of Ameera too,
Mhm.
because that's going to be a safe place for all of us to heal our mer person, you know, that mermaid part of us. And it's so very important.
Well,
I'm
and
feeling,
anything, anybody, any of you, we all hold something different. All these mythological beings we have talked
Right.
about, extraterrestrial, there's woundedness in many of us
And-
who hold these aspects. And it's where our work is not proprietary to the mer.
yeah,
We can go
true.
into
Thank you.
any version of yourself or aspect of who the energy or the soul stream that you hold, and go in and find out how we can heal and integrate and bring that back, bring that fragment back into wholeness.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Totally.
Yeah, because it really is. And it's, I'm even feeling like, you know, the ET and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff too is so important. Yeah. Thank you. I did want to pigeon you just into the mer. Thank you for that.
Well, I mean, that's my main, that's of course my main, but
We all have our
yeah, all of
niche.
it.
We all have
Yeah,
our
the
niche.
niche.
It's a niche, but we're so multidimensional with what we do and how we offer our services to the planet. I will say one thing, there's a lot of misinformation about MERS too.
Yes.
It's on the planet about, with the experiments in Atlantis and how MERS are just an experiment, a
Yeah,
DNA
right.
type of thing, rather than who the MER really are. And that could have happened, that could have went on too.
Yeah, and it did.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, they tried to clone us. That was their
Right.
way of cloning us.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I've been having goosebumps through this whole show.
I know.
And I just keep getting rushes and rushes of goosebumps. And I forgot to turn my phone off. Sorry, ladies.
And awareness is just like, oh,
I know.
Right.
and I always know, if I'm having this, other people are too,
Right.
and I always want to be like, pay attention to that. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we're listening, it's like, wow. Instead of being, oh, because really, if
Right.
it's a wow, it usually is sparking something in there. And I really want people to feel safe and to feel like they can open up
Mhm.
and come out, because we need you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We
We
all
need
you
everyone.
MERS and
All hands on
fairies and
deck.
all
Mhm.
hands
Yep.
on deck.
It's the time. It is time. No hiding. No more hiding. It's all hands on deck. Definitely.
And the mystical realms bring such joy and childlike glee and innocence too.
Yes.
That is so needed right now too.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so needed.
Right. Totally. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Ameera. I love you. I love you to death. Thank you.
I love you both. Thank you for having me.
I love you too.
And everyone, please subscribe, like, all that YouTube stuff. And if you feel drawn to work with Ameera, she's amazing. As you can see, her
Mhm.
information is below. Or just, just to hang out and be a part of her temple, all of that. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She's got a lot going on and a lot coming up.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
definitely do that. And also, we just want to remind, we're not live right now. So never mind. I'm not going to remind anybody of anything.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure you can remind somebody of something.
I know. We love you.
There we go. Okay, thank you everyone for being here, and we will be back soon. Once a week, we have a show. So, all right, thank you, Ameera. Love you,
Aloha.
Michelle. Aloha.